Hi, Jessica here. In this video, I'm going to talk about figure permissions, what academics get wrong. You cited it, you made it, you own it. So why do you still need permission? If you've ever used a figure in a paper, a graph, a diagram, a map, someone else's conceptual framework, you've probably told yourself one of these three things. You cited it, so you're covered. You found it online, so it's fair game. Or it's your own work from a previous paper, so obviously it's yours to reuse. Today I want to talk about why all three of these assumptions are more complicated than they look, and why once you flip the perspective, that actually makes sense. A few years ago, I was writing a book chapter, 10 examples and one image for each. It seemed straightforward, but it wasn't. It took me several months to track down the copyright holders for those 10 images. Not because I was being careless, because the system is genuinely complicated. Publishers merge, rights get transferred, contact information is outdated or missing entirely, and at the end of that process, 2 of those images cost me money out of my own pocket. Several $100s, actually. I want to be honest about that because nobody warns you. But here's what I keep coming back to while I was frustrated and on hold with the licensing department. Someone made these. Someone spent real time producing work that ended up in my chapter, and they had every right to be asked. So let's start here. Before we get into any rules or processes, you produce figures too. Maybe it's a graph that took you a week to get right. Maybe it's a conceptual framework that you've been refining for years. Maybe it's a diagram that finally makes your argument clear. If someone dropped that into their paper without asking, without even a note to you, how would you feel? Probably not great. And that's really the whole argument. Everything else is mechanics. Before we go any further, it's worth being clear that what we're actually talking about, because figure covers more ground than most people realize. We're talking about graphs and charts, obviously, but also tables, maps, photographs, diagrams, screenshots, and conceptual frameworks. Even an adapted version of someone else's figure, whether you've changed the colors or added a category, still counts. The test I find useful: did someone make creative choices to produce this? If yes, it's almost certainly protected, and someone owns it. That someone might be the author, it might be the publisher, it might be a stock photo agency, but it's not nobody. Some images online are explicitly licensed for reuse. That's what Creative Commons licenses are for. But Creative Commons isn't one thing, and this is where people get tripped up. CC BY means that you can use it with attribution, which is relatively straightforward. But things like CC, BY, and C means you can use it with attribution, but not for commercial purposes. And depending on your publisher, your book chapter, or your journal article, it might count as commercial, so it's worth checking. CC, BY, and D means no derivatives, so you can't adapt or modify the figure. And CCO means the creator has waived all rights. That one is genuinely free. The takeaway: read the actual license, not just the logo. And for genuinely open figures, your safest sources are Wikipedia Commons, US government publications, and open access repositories where the license is clearly stated. But I found it online. This is probably the most common assumption, and it makes intuitive sense. If something is publicly visible, it feels public. But online doesn't mean public domain. Visibility is not permission. Someone made it, and making it visible didn't transfer ownership. If there's no license stated, assume it's protected and find another route, which brings us to the next assumption. I cited the source. Citation and permission are two different things, and this distinction matters more than people realize. Citation is about attribution. You're telling your reader where something came from. Permission is a legal conversation between and whoever owns the copyright. And here's the complication. The person you're citing almost certainly doesn't own the copyright anymore. When researchers publish in traditional journals, they typically sign a copyright transfer agreement. the work, including any figures in it, now belongs to the publisher. So even if you email the author directly and they say, of course, use it, that permission isn't theirs to give. You need it from the publisher. What about it's my own figure? This is the one that surprises people most. And honestly, it surprised me too when I first encountered it. If you've published a figure in a traditional journal and you signed a standard copyright transfer agreement, which most of us do without reading closely, that figure belongs to the publisher now, not to you, not to me. Reusing it in a new paper, even your own next paper, technically requires permission. The good news is that most publishers are fairly accommodating about self-reuse. RightsLink makes the request process faster than you'd expect. I say that from experience. And many will grant permission quickly or at no cost. But the ask still matters. If you publish open access and retained copyright, check your original agreement. You may be in a different position. The point isn't that the system is punitive. It's that we all agreed to rules when we published, and those rules apply to our own work, the same way they apply to everyone else's. Just ask, here's how. So practically, how does this work? For most major publishers, start with RightsLinks. RightsLink. Here's the URL on the page, on the screen. It's a permissions clearinghouse that handles a lot of this automatically, and it moves faster than it looks. If a publisher doesn't use RightsLink, you'll need to contact their permissions department directly. Either way, have this information ready. Your name and institution, the specific figure you want to use, the journal, volume, figure number, the journal or publication you're submitting to, and how the figure will be used. 2 things that will save you significant stress. Start early. Build in 2 to 4 weeks, and don't wait until you're at the revision stage. And keep every permission you receive on file. Journals will ask for documentation at submission. Sometimes permission isn't available. The copyright holder can't be located, the cost is prohibitive, or the timeline doesn't work. In those cases, your cleanest option is to recreate the figure yourself using the original data with a citation to the source. Your version will be tailored to your argument anyway, and you'll own it. You can also look for figures from open access papers where the author retained copyright. Check the license before assuming. And for older material, U.S. government publications and works published before 1928 are generally in the public domain, if that works for you. The shorthand I keep coming back to, when in doubt, redraw rather than reproduce. It's usually the better figure anyway. Okay, before you hit submit, run through this before every submission. Every figure in your paper has a source identified. Permission has been obtained, or you've confirmed it isn't needed for every third-party figure. For your own previously published figures, you've checked the copyright status and submitted a request if necessary. If you're using Creative Commons figures, you've read the specific license terms, not just noted the logo. And you have all permissions saved and ready to submit with your manuscript. Screenshot this if it's useful. You might want it. Okay, I'll be honest. Those months I spent tracking down permissions weren't super fun. Cold emails to licensing departments, waiting, following up again, in some cases paying out of pocket for images I really wanted to include. But here's what I kept coming back to. Someone spent years producing those images. The ask was the least I could do. That's really the whole argument. We work hard on what we make. So does everyone else. If you've got questions or you're navigating a specific situation, drop them in the comments. And if you want more on the publishing process, the link to the community is below. This video complements Draft It, the essential 10-week workshop, a self-paced tutorial to draft your journal paper from abstract to conclusion. Draft It covers topics including how to structure your journal paper, articulating your core argument, writing and refining your introduction and literature review, basic contents and organization, concluding and finishing. It includes but goes beyond the standard IMRAD content. Remember, IMRAD is the acronym for the standard journal selections that include introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Draft It helps you tackle the two most fundamental, essential, critical elements of what elevator research report into a publishable journal paper: a clearly articulated core argument and the structure that supports your entire paper. So if you're ready to publish it, register for Draft It. Register for the self-paced course and you'll have unlimited access so you can start anytime, now, next month, or next year. Find the link in my bio. Thank you for watching this video. Check out my other videos on publishing your research in a peer-reviewed journal paper. Be sure to subscribe as I upload new content monthly.